Hi. Hello, Mommy Clinic. Good afternoon. Hello, hello, hello. Hi. Can see some imposters here. Some daddies to be, sorry, not imposters. Hi everyone. Okay, so today we are doing a live chat on our newborn mom and newborn check sheet. So it's well, this is what it looks like. I'll show you one we put up one in our stories, and it's something that you can download from the link in our bio. So it's actually and you can download it, you can print it. So it's a guide to help new moms, especially first time moms, because the few days after you've just had your baby is a time when usually you'd have gone for your antenatal and prepared and everything, but sometimes it can be a bit challenging with all the changes going on in your body, and then also people around you trying to help and all that. It's also a source of friction for some moms. I've seen a few comments on pages like Mom Confessions, people struggling with, finding out how much, knowing exactly how much the baby is supposed to be getting, or some people say, oh, the baby's not getting enough food and all that. There are just some very simple ways of being sure that everything is going on within normal limits, everything is going on fine. Knowing if the baby is getting enough food, knowing if the baby is getting enough fluids and all that. This is a screenshot of what it looks like. This is the first page, and then that's the second page. Like I said, you can download it through the link in our bio. You can download it through the link in our bio. So this is a video recording of what it looks like and all that. So I'm just going to go through it step by step, and if you have any questions, please send them through. I'll note them down and I'll answer them at the end of the chat. Okay, so let's just go back. Yeah, all right. So this newborn check sheet, it has several columns. Yeah, it has like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, about 8 columns. And it's something you can share with your the midwife or the doctor who's attending to you, and it's also something that you can just have with you, and it's supposed to sort of give you a guide for the first 4 days. This is the time when you ordinarily would be, first 24 hours when you ordinarily would be in the hospital. So we're looking at the first page here, and the first column has like date and time. We want you to fill the date and the time, and then the time when you started feeding, and then you enter in how long you breastfed for. Ideally, if the baby has gotten their latch right and all that, each breastfeeding session can take about 15 to 45 minutes. So there's I know some people get nervous about, oh, the baby is taking too long at the breast and all that, or it's too short and all that. There's a range, and it depends on how strong the baby's suck is and all that. And also, if you have a baby that's very that's sleepy and all that, obviously you're not going to get milk. The baby is not going to be sucking as fast as So you are taking note of how long you breastfed for. You're entering that along that line. Then does the baby swallow? So you're going to answer either yes or no. That's Y or N, or you don't know. That's where the question mark is. So, and if you're not sure, you should ask a nurse or a midwife for assistance. Now, how do you know if the baby is swallowing? When the baby is swallowing, the lower lobe of the ear actually moves up and down. Yeah, so a baby may be sucking but not necessarily swallowing, and that's a sign. If the baby is not swallowing, that's not a good sign. Maybe the baby has some trouble in some muscles, or has some deformity, or maybe actually the baby is not even able to draw out milk from your nipple, and sorry, from your breast, not your nipple, from your breast. So the baby is not feeding effectively, so you want to take note of that. Yeah, and the reason why you're writing it down is because you might not remember. If somebody asks you, sat down and asked you, okay, so today how do you do? So if you're writing it down this way, you have an objective view. You can fill it out, and at the end of the day you can look at it, or someone else can look at it as your health provider, and then if you're on the right track. And then the next column says, do you feel nipple or areola pain? And there's some people that have sensitive nipples, and that's fine, that's normal. But when you're breastfeeding effectively, when the latch is right, and the latch is the way the baby engages with your breast, the baby is not supposed to clamp onto your nipple. The baby is supposed to clamp onto the darkened skin around your nipple, and that's where the milk collects when it comes from from within the breast before it's taken out into the nipple. So if the baby is sucking, the baby is supposed to be sort of compressing that area to bring the milk out. If the baby is sucking on the nipple, there's no reservoir of milk in the nipple. So more or less, baby is just doing rubbish, and there's no way the milk is going to come out. Your baby will be hungry, your baby will be fussy, and all that. And it's very, very important that why the latch is important is that if you're draining your breast, initially you have colostrum, which is the first milk that has a lot of nutrients and all that. If you're draining your breast effectively in the first few days, it sends signals to the brain to continue producing more milk. So that means that your supply will also build up. Whereas if the breast is not being drained, obviously your breastfeeding will not be established, and then you start having issues with supply. So the first few days of life between the baby and mom are very, very important. So do you feel nipple or areola pain? And that's a bad sign. That's a sign that, look, this thing is not going well. Apart from pain, if at the end of each feed, your nipple should not look squashed. It should not look like the tip of a lipstick. How the pictures, the regular pictures we see of lipsticks, it shouldn't have that sort of shaved off look. It should look normal. So that's, do you feel nipple or areola pain? Things that can cause pain apart from a bad latch, things like thrush and infection, and sometimes there are some blood vessels around that area, and if they go into spasm, as if they sort of start twitching, it can also be very painful. So those are the things that can cause pain, and it's very good to take note of that, and then to let your practitioner know. So time spent on skin to skin with baby, and that's the next column after that. So skin to skin is more or less you bare chested with or without your bra, but better without your bra, baby only in baby's diaper, and baby's lying against your skin. It comforts the baby, because all this while baby has been in your tummy and has been in this warm sort of familiar environment. So by the time when you have your baby, and then you allow your baby to be placed, well, not allow, but you get your baby to be placed on your bare skin, and it helps the baby to be calm, helps baby feel safe, helps baby regulate the baby's body temperature, because at that time they haven't fully gotten that all sorted out. And it also helps to release the hormones that help with breast milk production, and that's oxytocin. So we want to note how long you've had skin to skin with baby. And it also helps with latching as well. Then the next column, you want to know about baby's urine. What's the color of the urine? How many wet diapers has the baby had? It's very important. So if the baby is doing well, is eating well, is getting enough breast milk. If you look at this, when we turn to the back of the page of the breastfeed of the check sheet, you can see where we have wet diapers, and that's the 1 2 3 4 5 6. That's the 5th row. So in the first 24 hours, we're expecting 1 to 2 wet diapers. The second 24 hours, 2 to 3. The third 24 hours, 3 to 5. And the on the 4th day, 4 to 6 wet diapers. So we're expecting that maybe would have wet diapers up to 4 to 6 times, and that's within normal limits. So I'm going to show a picture of a lot of times. I remember as a first time mom, I think it was at antenatal class, they showed us how a lot of times people don't know when the diaper is full. So if you look at this picture here, the one at the bottom of the page, you can see someone's hand pinching the bottom of the diaper, and then usually if the diaper is full of urine, it feels squishy. Like, just imagine if you had a bag with maybe some gel or pap in it. This is for disposable diapers, so it feels squishy because the whatever compound they have within the diaper, when it absorbs fluid, when it absorbs urine, it turns into gel-like balls. And for people who have had the unfortunate mishap of having an overflowing diaper, sometimes it shouldn't always happen, but sometimes you can actually see these gels coming out. So that is about that. Where were we? Yeah, we're talking about the baby's urine. So we want to know how many wet diapers baby has had. What's the color of the urine? The urine should be clear. You should not expect to see anything like a blood stained urine or a darkened urine within the first within the first 24 hours. That's not a good sign. So these are things that you want to note and let your doctor know about. The stool and the stool color. Okay, so if you go back to that picture that I showed some minutes ago, so the top of the picture is shows a diaper with what we call meconium, and that's the baby's first poo. So we expect that poo to come within the first 24 to 48 hours. So on day 1 and day 2, and this poo is dark, it is sticky. They say it's tar like. I like to liken it to like the raw dudoshu, the one that is not molded. That's how it comes. It's quite thick and pasty. So that is normal. And then so the picture above, you can see what meconium should look like. And then by the second day, you may still have that black tarry stool. By the 3rd day, the stool now becomes less thick, and then it's now brown or green. And we have that information at the back of the newborn check sheet. So if you look at the last row, so we have on the first 24 hours, you have 1 or 2 pools. They are black, thick, and tarry. Second 24 hours is black, but it's less thick. And then on the 3rd day, you have thinner and brown or green during poo, and then thinner, it's more loose, and then by the fourth day you now start having the baby is being breastfed, yeah, you lose brown, greenish or yellow like stool, which is a bit like let's call it, is a bit like a goosey. Yeah, so that's normal. And then you should have baby pooing at least 3 to 4 times by the fourth day. The significance of this is, if the baby is getting enough breast milk or formula or whatever, the baby should follow this trend. If the baby does not pass meconium in the first 24 hours, that's the first dark stool, that's bad. That's a sign that something is going on. And for first time moms, usually the doctors take note of it, but then if it's something to look out for, because it's a sign that there's something going on with the digestive system. So it's important to note this. If you're someone who gives birth at home, then obviously not in a medical facility, then you should be looking out for stuff like this. Baby should pass that black stool within the first 1 to 2 days. Yeah. So I've just described what normal is. If the baby passes stool that is like red currant jelly, which is let's just say like jam, yeah, that's not a good sign. That's a sign that there's something going on with the digestive system of the baby, and you need to go to the hospital to have it checked out. So I don't want to bore you with the details of those medical conditions, but this is just a simple way of you being able to monitor and look out for stuff in your baby as a first time mom. So, and then take note of this, so it's objective, someone else can look at it. So going back to the first page now, you see we talk about the stool, how many times, and then the stool color. So we're making those entries during the day, and then look at them maybe at midday or at the end of the day. So this gives you an objective view. This, you don't have to, you just write it down and then forget about it, and then you can look at it later. So then the comments, in the comment section, you have, in the comment section, this is where you can give your remarks. Did you hand express, or did you pump? Did you use a breast pump? Did baby spit up? Spit up, that's did the baby regurgitate any of the milk? Anything else that you like to take note of. So those are the things that you put in there. Yeah. So if we go to the back of this newborn check sheet, so we finished with the front. Does anyone have any questions? If you have any questions, kindly send them through and answer them. So anyway, at the top of this, he said, first start filling the sheet once your baby is born and you move to the postnatal ward. Your goals are 8 to 12 feedings per 24 hours. So we're looking at baby feeding every 2 to 3 hours. That's if 8 to 12 hours if you're breastfeeding, and 6 to 8 feeds per 24 hours if you're bottle feeding. Yeah, so you follow your baby's feeding demands and cues. So I think we've done a post on feeding cues. A lot of times people before I go to the back, we'll just talk about cues again, and that's a normal behavior of a baby. A lot of times people, I'll call them the uninitiated, it's when the baby starts crying that they realize that the baby is hungry. Crying is a late sign of hunger for babies. So at that time, well, if you're lucky enough, you can feed the baby without force. But there are some babies that there are some babies that if you are trying to feed them at that point, one, there's a chance that your latch will not be correct, because the baby is going to just chomp on your boob or your nipple immediately. He or she gets in contact with it, and all those arrangements that you're supposed to make in terms of making sure you have that as much areola as you can in the baby's mouth and all that, it may not be achieved. Also, because breastfeeding is in phases. So what happens is that when the baby is sucking, baby sucks for some time, and that sucking stimulates the milk to come down, and then when the milk starts coming down, that's what's called let down, coming down and filling into the reservoirs beneath the areola, which is the dark part of your breast, just below your nipple, and then that let down happens. So a baby who's hungry and has started crying is already pissed off. Is like, please, as in, just give me food now, or give me food like yesterday. And then if the baby now has to do that work of sucking, and the milk hasn't come out, it's a recipe for disaster. So that's the reason why being able to read your baby, read those signs that the baby is hungry ahead of time is very important. We'll have a video of it, but what will happen is that I'll put up the link to the post that has those feeding cues in the stories. So the first cue, when baby is hungry, the baby starts breathing, clenching the fist, turning around and all that. Baby that's hungry is not calm. That's the beginning. Then baby starts trying to suck anything, and that's what's called rooting. Sometimes baby brings out baby's tongue, making sucking gestures and all that. If maybe you bring your finger near the baby's mouth, baby will be trying to go in direction of the breast and all that, turn in direction of the breast. That's called rooting. That's an early sign, and then after a while baby starts becoming fussy, and finally, if you don't answer that child, then the baby is going to ring the alarm, which is a last cue. So I've talked about, I remember I spoke about effective swallowing. So the baby's ears are bobbing up and down. That's how you know that the baby is swallowing effect. That's not the ears, the lower lobe of the ear. And we've talked about cues. So yeah, okay. So and then one more thing before I continue with the back, since we talked about cues. What a good latch looks like. A good latch, for a good latch, the latch is supposed to be very deep. That's for the baby to engage. As I said, your nipple is more or less at the back of the baby's throat. The baby's lips and mouth are around the areola, not around the tip of your nipple, not around your nipple, around the areola, which is a darkened skin just after your nipple. And the baby, the angle of the mouth, these are the baby's lips. This is the angle of the mouth, and that's the upper lip and lower lip. This angle is supposed to be very wide. So that's your breast. The angle should be quite wide. It's not going to be a small angle. That's not an effective latch. So if that angle is quite wide, you're sure that a lot of the breast is going into the baby's, that at least the nipple is at the back where the soft palate is, and the baby's tongue is able to work to press those reservoirs of milk, to push the milk into the baby's mouth. So we talked about the angle. The baby's chin will be touching mommy's breast. That's another sign that the latch is right. Another sign is that it's not usually painful, unless you have, and even if there's a little discomfort for people who have sensitive nipples, it's not supposed to last for more than 2 weeks. Yeah, so those are the signs. Have I forgotten any other thing? Anyway, if I do forget, and then after the baby, sign that the latch was good, when the baby sucks, the baby drains the breast. That's a sign that the latch was perfect. So the lactation consultant I used was always like, look, it's better to have a good latch than any latch. So if your baby has engaged and you're feeling pain, or you look at and then all these things are not right, you put your finger into the side of baby's mouth and disengage, and then try again. So you're learning and baby's learning, and there's no point causing yourself any injury, because if the latch is wrong, you will hurt yourself, you hurt your nipple, you develop cracks, and these cracks can be very painful, they can get infected, and it also puts people off continuing breastfeeding. Is also another reason. Pain is another reason why people stop breastfeeding on time, why people wean their babies on time and switch to formula. Yeah. So yes, there's something very, very important that we need to talk about. It's the size of the baby's tummy. You have this thing where people are saying, oh, you're not giving the baby enough milk, to be honest. When the baby is born, the baby's tummy is quite tiny within the first few days, quite tiny, and the capacity of the baby's tummy to take the amount of milk that the baby can take at a time is actually quite small. So there's really no reason to be. Don't let anyone bully you or bamboo you or harass you into, for example, starting formula if you did not plan on feeding your baby with formula. If your plan was to breastfeed, there's no reason why you should let anyone bully you into introducing formula if that wasn't your plan. The best defense you can have really is to have information. If you have information, then you know what to expect, and then you know also how to respond when people try to put pressure on you. So in the first 3 days, baby's tummy is like the size of like a teaspoon. That's how much milk the baby needs per feed. Can you imagine that? That's how much baby milk baby needs per feed. So we have to be very careful that we're not overfeeding babies, and we have to be very careful that we are not putting babies under pressure. So if the baby is forcing over something, and another sign that the baby is getting enough food is, like we've said, the number of diapers that are wet and number of diapers that are pooped. Baby doesn't look dehydrated, baby is pooing and peeing effectively, baby is also gaining weight. Those are the signs that the baby is doing very well. I'd like to at this point just point out a caveat that within the first 5 days there is a weight loss that goes on for babies, which is normal. It shouldn't be more than 10% of the baby's birth weight. The baby loses a bit of body water in the first few days of life before everything settles down, but then it now goes back by the 5th day, so it's expected. Yeah, so I'll put up the post that I'll put up the post that talks about the size, that gives you a visual description of the actual size of baby's tummies, as they grow. By 3 days, the baby is supposed to have about 1 ounce. That's the size of baby's 1 ounce per feed. I think it's about 30 mils. By the first week is 1.5. That's about 45. By the second week, we're now going up to 2 ounces. That's about 90 mils of milk per feed. So if you look at your bottle, you look at your breastfeeding, your bottle, and look at those quantities, then to give you a lot of reassurance and also help people calm down. The colostrum that baby needs, that's that precious golden liquid milk that comes out of mommy's breast within the first 24 hours. That's already there before the baby is born. Just small quantities of that are needed. I've seen in places where I've worked before, I've seen people just suffer unnecessarily because they're expecting the milk to be rushing out immediately. Yes, so for some people it happens, but it doesn't always happen with everybody, and then it doesn't mean that the baby even needs that much at that point in time. So there's no need for water or anything like that. Just put baby to breast. You might not even be able to see what is coming out, so you really can't tell. So you just and so once you fed your baby who's been fed and is full will sleep off, will be relaxed, open up their palms, not clenching fists anymore. It's just nice and chill. So those are the signs that baby has eaten and baby is fine. So now back to the back of this check sheet. I think we have about 15 to 30 minutes more. So at the back of the check sheet, let me just show you that. So that's the back of the check sheet. Oh yeah, hi Ayaba. So this check sheet is we adapted it from Emory University Hospital. This is something they give their patients when patients who are on admission, who just had babies, and it's very, very useful. So, and it comes in, you try and put it in some of our gift boxes, and also if we speak to a mom who's just bought something and it seems like this is something that should benefit from, you put that in. But it's freely available, link in our bio. You can download it and use it. Excuse me. Okay, so now the back of this newborn check sheet. So it has about 4 columns, which this is like a rough guide. So it's telling you what to expect in the first 4 days. So you have the first 24 hours, second 24 hours, third 24 hours, and fourth 24 hours. And then below you have baby's behavior, you have breastfeeding, you have swallows, which we've already talked about, wet diapers and stools. So in the first 24 hours, they be sleeping, been through a lot, depending on whether baby had a cesarean section or came out or fought her way out through the vagina. The baby is sleepy, needs to be woken up for feeding. So as you're putting your baby to breast, sometimes we need to wake baby up. You can rub baby's back, or rub the sole of baby's feet so that baby can wake up. Or another thing that people tend to do also is that to expose the baby. So if baby is warm and comfortable, you keep on sleeping. But if the baby feels a bit cold and all that, maybe wake up to eat. So then in the second 24 hours, there's something called cluster feeding. Now cluster feeding is by the second day you actually don't have anything to compare it to. But cluster feeding is when the baby feeds more regularly than usual. So normally babies, I'm just going to talk about breastfeeding babies. Yeah, maybe will feed every 2 to 3 hours, right? Okay, in the first 24 hours is about 6 to 8 times, so that's a little more than 2 to 3 hours. Yeah, so the baby, let's say the baby is normally supposed to eat every 2 to 3 hours. A cluster feed period is when the baby now decides to eat every hour or every 2 hours instead of every 3 hours, and this cluster feeding usually coincides with growth spurts. Yeah, so you have cluster feeding, times of cluster feeding in this second day of life. Also around 3 months, there's another one around 6 months, another one around 9 months, and this coincides with, so it's like the cluster feed is nature's way of trying to increase your supply. So because it's a give and take, is a feedback thing. So for when the baby starts demanding for milk more frequently, it sends a signal to your brain that you need to produce more milk for this child. You need to produce more milk, and then that leads to, usually, okay, what I remember from my own experience is that I would have my baby do cluster feeding for maybe 2 days, and then on the 3rd day my supply just skyrockets. So the challenge with this, and the reason why it's very important for us to take note of it, is that when baby cluster feeds, it's as if the baby is fussy. There's always one, and this is the time when people make the mistake of trying to introduce water, trying to introduce formula, because they feel that the baby is not getting enough. No, this is totally natural. This is nature's way of increasing your milk supply. So don't look at the clock. If the baby showing signs of hunger, put that baby to breast. If you want to breastfeed though, put that baby to breast, and it will help to increase your milk supply to what the baby requires for the next stage of baby's life. So that's cluster feeding. The baby being getting hungry and demanding for food more frequently than usual. And how do you know that baby is demanding for food? You go back to these hunger cues that I mentioned before. I'm not talking about waiting until the baby starts screaming and shouting and looking for who to stab. I'm joking. But things like rooting and all that. So once you see those cues, put the baby to breast. It is for your own good. So by the third day, if you go to the next column, the third 24 hours, there's some cluster feeding, or sometimes baby is satisfied, depending on whether your milk supply has been increased to the level that baby requires. And then by the fourth day, baby should still be satisfied with feedings. So that's that column, that's that row. So the next one is breastfeeding. So breastfeeding be happening like 6 to 8 times a day. So what we're looking at here is that maybe every 4 hours baby wants to eat, or if it's 8 times, every 4 hours or every 3 hours baby wants to eat on day 1. Day 2 it may be 12 to 16 times. So that may vary. So we're looking at the baby's cluster feeding. So like we said, now instead of having longer intervals in between feeds, 4 hours, you're not having the baby wanting to feed every 2 hours. As I said, is a trick. Well, not really a trick, but don't be tricked into, if you want to breastfeed exclusively, don't be tricked into introducing formula at this point. If your goal is to breastfeed your child, it does not mean that your milk is not enough. All it means is that nature and baby are trying to help you increase your milk supply. So on the third 24 hours, just look at all this coinciding with some cluster feeding and baby satisfied. It may drop down to 3 to 2 hours. And on the fourth day, everything sort of evens out. So the swallowing, like I said, how baby is swallowing, you have a good deep latch, and then the lower jaw and then the lower earlobe are bobbing up and down, showing that baby is swallowing effectively. So you have few occasional swallows is normal, baby still learning. By the second day, increase frequency. By the third day, baby is now consistent and frequent. So baby is feeding and you can see that baby is swallowing. Apart from those clicking sounds that you hear, the tiny gulping sounds that you hear that show that baby is swallowing, you have that bobbing up of the baby's ear. Okay, so wet diapers, we've gone through this before. So you have 1 to 2 wet diapers in the beginning, on the first day, 2 to 3 wet diapers, that's with urine, 3 to 5 and 4 to 6 on the fourth day. The urine should be clear. You don't want dark colored urine. Sometimes within the first 3 days, some babies may pass something slightly reddish that look like crystals, but that's normal and you shouldn't see it after the first 3 days. So stools, we've gone through that previously. The stools are black, thick and tar-like. That's the meconium. The first poo, it must happen. If it does not happen, there's a problem. So your doctor needs to be notified, or at least your doctor should notice. The doctor or the midwife who's managing you should notice that this baby hasn't pooed. Usually I'm sure you've heard them, they'll come and ask, has the baby passed meconium? Baby hasn't passed meconium means that there may be a blockage somewhere. That's why we need to take note of it. And take note of the color. So we don't want poo that looks like jam at this stage. That is a sign of something going on within the digestive tract of the baby. So we've basically gone through all that, and that's our newborn check sheet. The one I have here is in black and white, so that's it in black and white. The back is colored. So you can print it out, put it in your hospital bag, and use it as a guide. I think I forgot to mention something. Skin to skin. If mom had a cesarean section and is not in a position to do skin to skin, dad can also do skin to skin. So it's all about, it helps with bonding, helps you feel safe and all that. So you talk to your provider about it. It's very important to do it within to the first few hours of birth. There are some things I wanted to touch on finally before we go. We talked about behavior, proper latch. Yeah, so as promised, I'm going to put up the video on hunger cues. I'm going to put up the post that shows the size of baby's tummy in the first few days of life, so that everybody can chill. So that everybody can chill out. And okay, last words. Then some studies have been done, outside the country. I was listening to a lecture a few months ago, and they were just talking about the fact that they've done studies that, and this is just to encourage moms. All physical challenges aside, as far as breastfeeding is concerned, there can be a defect. Mom can have inverted nipples and all those things. Those things can be corrected. We have things that can help to correct those things. We sell those solutions at Animico. A mother's negative perception of her ability to breastfeed actually affects her ability to breastfeed. I don't know if that makes sense. So if you think that your milk supply is not enough, or you feel that you're not going to be able to breastfeed your baby, your wish will be your body's command. And just putting it plainly. So what I mean by your wish will be your command is, let me give you an example. On that second day when the cluster feeding is supposed to happen, you may feel that in your mind you think, oh, okay, so the reason why this baby is forcing and eating every 1 hour instead of every 3 hours is because my milk is not enough. And because of that negative perception, you're gonna bring formula and give baby, and you're not giving baby the chance to keep on breastfeeding and increasing your milk supply. So because of that, your supply will go down. And this is just because of what you were thinking in your head. People do have challenges. They have inverted nipples, they have latching issues and all that. But they've done studies, and they found out that if a mom is motivated and there's no physical challenge to breastfeeding, she will be successful. So I just want to use it to encourage all of us. You have every single thing that you need to be a good mom. You have every single thing that you need to breastfeed your baby exclusively, if that is what you want to do. So just it's very important that you prepare when you're pregnant, not when you give birth. Prepare, read up. There's lots of really good resources online. We're having more and more certified lactation consultants in Nigeria now. There's Milky Express, there's Breastfeeding NG. Talk to them, read up. We put up a lot of stuff about breastfeeding and all that on our pages as well. Follow places like Baby Center and The Bump. We give information as well, and this will guide you. This will guide you, and there are lots of solutions. We have them. We have things for inverted nipples. We have things for, we have nipple shields for when you have cracks. We have nipple creams and things like that. So just go through our page, look at it, and check these things out. If there's any question you have, I'm only a DM away. I will not. There's some people that send me a DM and say they want, for example, a nipple shield, and I'm like, okay, what exactly is your challenge? And sometimes we find out that that's not what they need, or they don't even need a nipple shield. So it's not even just about selling these devices. It's about helping you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. I hope this has been very helpful. It's going to be up for the next 24 hours, and we'll record it and then put it on the YouTube page. You can get to our YouTube page through a link in our bio. We have loads of other lives that we've done with lactation consultants and all that, on breastfeeding, on all sorts. I think we have about over 5 videos there, storing milk and stuff like that. So send us a DM if you have questions. Check out our page, and if you see anything interesting, let us know. Thank you so much for attending our live, and we'll see you at the next live. Bye. Thank you.